Chapter 59-56. Xiao Soa noticed the way everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, and couldn't help but feel depressed. This Bailey Hongzhuang was simply a demoness. Apart from a demon, who else would be able to bewitch people like this? Even she, facing such a Bailey Hongzhuang, couldn't help but feel ashamed. Is the Saintess Crystal resonating with the Temple of Light? When Xiren looked at the Saintess Crystal above, and his eyes were full of amazement. If they hadn't come to the Temple of Light, they probably wouldn't have seen such a sacred scene. He didn't know what kind of changes the Saintess Crystal would cause, but he knew that this Saintess Crystal must be an incredible treasure. To be able to resonate with the Temple of Light, even if it was just an ordinary treasure, after going through the baptism of the Temple of Light, its effect would be greatly enhanced, not to mention that it was a treasure in itself. It should be like this. Shangguan Yingying nodded, and crossed her fingers in front of her chest. Her delicate face was full of anticipation. I think Hongzhuang's future is really limitless. Seeing Hongzhuang gain such a harvest, she only felt happier than her own gain. The Temple of Light really lives up to its name, Di Xiaofeng said slowly. At least the other guilds didn't have such a treasure. Bailey Hongzhuang was originally the Saintess of Light, and after going through the baptism of the Temple of Light, her influence after returning to the Temple of Light would probably be even greater. This time they came to the ancient battlefield. Their harvest was really too rich. He could already imagine that after they returned, after ordinary families knew about the talent of Beichen and Hongzhuang, as long as they had some brains, they wouldn't easily find trouble with them. After all, for such talented cultivators, as long as they couldn't be killed in the cradle in the early stage, it was almost impossible to suppress them in the later stage. He had lived in the family for so many years, so he understood this situation very well. He originally thought that his talent was already good, but after seeing Beichen's talent, he understood what a real top genius was. Now he was completely relieved. Such a brother was not only extremely talented, but also very hardworking. The Di family would definitely flourish in his hands. Bailey Hongzhuang was completely immersed in cultivation. She felt an endless amount of energy flowing through her body. Although not all the energy could be absorbed, she felt that all the impurities in her body seemed to have been completely removed. This removal was different from the cleansing of the marrow and meridians, but purifying the yuan energy in her body. During daily cultivation, because of the faster speed, sometimes the yuan energy evolution wasn't pure enough, and there would be some impurities. These impurities usually didn't seem to affect her, but in the long run, it might affect the final result. In fact, after going through the baptism of the Darkness Temple and Radiant Temple, her body and the elemental energy in her body had become purer than before. This was Linz's the Saintess of Light, SS. If she had known this would happen, she would have taken out the Saintess Crystal earlier. It was just that she hadn't thought of this before. Fortunately, she suddenly had an idea and took it out at the last moment. Otherwise, she would have missed the opportunity to upgrade the Saintess Crystal. Chapter 59-57. All the cultivators present looked at Bailey Hongzhuang enviously. Originally, Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation was already at the peak. Now that the Saintess Crystal had undergone such a change, it was imaginable how much her strength had increased. However, everyone knew very well that this was not something they could obtain even if they were envious. Looking at it now, the Radiant Saint Hall did indeed have another legacy. However, this legacy belonged to Bailey Hongzhuang and had nothing to do with them. Everyone sighed faintly and did not waste any more time. They continued to cultivate. Without the Saintess Crystal, their cultivation speed naturally could not compare to Bailey Hongzhuang. However, their cultivation speed here was still much faster than outside. Since the Radiant Palace was not closed yet, they would cultivate as much as they could. As Di Beichen cultivated, he paid attention to Bailey Hongzhuang's situation. Gradually, he discovered that the Saintess Crystal was becoming brighter and brighter. The crystal was also becoming more and more saturated. This feeling was just like how the Saintess Crystal had not absorbed energy for a long time. Although it was still very powerful, it was not in its strongest state. Now, after absorbing enough energy, the Saintess Crystal gradually became full. The energy it emitted was much more powerful than before. If they had not come to the Radiant Palace, who knew when they would have known that the power of the Saintis crystal could be increased? Thinking back to the various effects of the Saintis crystal, perhaps after it was increased, the effects of the Saintis crystal would be even more powerful. When his gaze shifted to the breathtakingly beautiful woman below, there was only gentleness in Di Beichen's eyes. His Hongzhuang was different from the rest. When Di Xiaofeng noticed that Di Beichen was not in the mood to cultivate under such circumstances, he took the opportunity to tell Di Beichen what the nine-tailed inferno fox had said earlier. I also don't know why the nine-tailed inferno fox was so excited after seeing your cultivation talent. This is the first time it has taken the initiative to talk to me so much. However, I have also asked. He said that demon beasts will not possess human cultivators. However, I do not know much about this. If you are unwilling, then we will not agree. Di Xiaofeng's expression was serious. In his eyes, nothing was more important than his brother's safety. The reason why he wanted to tell Beichen about this was because he felt that this might be an opportunity. If he missed this opportunity, he might lose a chance to improve. However, based on the few words that the nine-tailed inferno fox had said, they were simply unable to determine whether all of this was true or false. When Di Beichen heard this news, he was also a little surprised. The nine-tailed inferno fox wanted him to meet a dark-attributed demonic beast. Now that he thought about it carefully, the only dark attribute demonic beasts he had seen so far were Yanqei, Xiaohei, and Xiaobai. He really hadn't seen any other dark attribute demonic beasts. Most importantly, with the level of the nine-tailed inferno fox, its friend's strength should not be weak either. Listening to Big Brother's words, the nine-tailed inferno fox seemed to be very excited after seeing his cultivation talent. This meant that it might have been searching for a cultivator with this kind of cultivation talent for a long time, but it couldn't find one, so it couldn't hold back its excitement. Based on this point, he had to consider carefully if that demonic beast wanted to harm him. Chapter 59-58. Noticing Di Xiaofeng's nervousness, Di Beichen chuckled. That's not it. It's just that you need to think about it carefully. Of course. Di Xiaofeng nodded. You're the young master of the clan. No matter what, the most important thing is to protect yourself. You know the situation between me and the nine-tailed inferno fox. To put it bluntly, we're just partners. Once it finds a suitable opportunity, it will leave. Although it hasn't shown any hostility towards me, it's hard to know what's in a person's heart. Who knows what it's really thinking? Di Beichen felt warmth in his heart seeing Di Xiaofeng being so considerate. Big brother, you don't have a contracted beast right now. Is it possible for the nine-tailed inferno fox to become your contracted beast? Ever since he came into contact with the immortal region, he knew that he had to go there. If his big brother became stronger, he could rest assured even if he wasn't in the clan. Once in existence, like the nine-tailed inferno fox became his big brother's contracted beast, ordinary forces wouldn't dare to cause trouble. Even in the immortal region, the nine-tailed inferno fox was an abnormally strong existence, let alone in the upper realm. With such a demonic beast, it was enough for a mid-tier clan to become a large clan. Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng sighed and shook his head. If it's possible, why wouldn't I want it? Think about it. How strong is the nine-tailed inferno fox? If it wasn't for the fact that it couldn't find a suitable cultivator, it wouldn't have stayed in my body. If someone with my cultivation level could become its master, let alone it, even I would find it hard to believe. Towards the end, Di Xiaofeng felt it was funny. It wasn't that he hadn't thought of this before. Actually, from the moment the nine-tailed inferno fox resided in his body, this thought had always appeared in his mind. Previously, when the nine-tailed inferno fox used his body to deal with the Qing devil, just how powerful was that? However, he deeply understood the gap between him and the nine-tailed inferno fox. Thinking about it from another perspective, he also didn't want to. Di Beichen also understood Di Xiaofeng's thoughts. He patted the latter's shoulder, and a comforting smile appeared on his handsome face. Big brother, nothing is impossible in this world. Maybe one day, what you think is impossible will become possible. If you hadn't seen Hongzhuang, Would you have believed that a beast king would become a human's contract beast? Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng was startled, but he couldn't refute. Indeed, even a top existence like the Beast King had become a contract beast. This was something that defied common sense. According to this line of thought, the nine-tailed inferno fox might not be able to become his contract beast. Take it one step at a time. No one knows the result until the end. Di Baichen smiled faintly. Di Xiaofeng nodded slightly. His black jade-like eyes rippled with a bright light, as if a dusty pearl suddenly bloomed with light, bringing with it endless hope. Bailey Union couldn't help but be affected by Di Xiaofeng's emotions. They were still very young. As long as they were filled with hope, nothing was impossible. I feel that Hong Zhuang's aura is rapidly increasing. I'm afraid she's about to break through again. Lin Taxing looked seriously at Bailey Hongzhuang and the Saintess Crystal. He could clearly feel that these two auras were rapidly increasing. Chapter 59-59. Lin Qianqian smiled faintly. She did not believe it in the past, but now that she had seen Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang, she no longer had any doubts. When Bailey Hongzhuang broke through, she opened her eyes. The moment she opened her eyes, everyone noticed that her eyes seemed to have turned into dazzling pearls, blooming with a resplendent brilliance. A moment later, her eyes returned to their original black color. Although it was not long, the appearance just now was deeply imprinted in everyone's hearts. Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance at that moment was like a god, without the slightest ripple of emotion. There was no complicated brilliance, only contempt and indifference. It was just a look, but it was enough for everyone to remember. As Bailey Hongzhuang exited her cultivation state, the Holy Maiden crystal gradually stopped spinning and slowly fell into her hand. Looking at the Holy Maiden crystal in her hand, Bailey Hongzhuang acutely sensed that its light was even more dazzling, and the energy it contained was much stronger than before. The most important thing was that after this incident, she felt that her connection with the Saintess Crystal had deepened. Previously, after obtaining the Holy Maiden crystal, although the Holy Maiden crystal had already recognized her as its master, there was still something wrong. But now, this problem had completely disappeared, and she could clearly feel that her control over the Holy Maiden crystal had improved. Not only that, she realized that the Holy Maiden crystal had many uses, which she did not seem to understand before. After seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and the Holy Maiden crystal had returned to normal, Di Baichen walked to her side, his handsome face rippling with a smile like a spring breeze. Looks like you and the Holy Maiden crystal have gained a lot? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. The Holy Maiden crystal seems to have other uses, but I have not found the right way to use it before. Although she did not understand why the Radiant Temple would cause such a change to the Holy Maiden crystal, she felt that the Holy Maiden crystal had gained the most. If it was any other place, perhaps it would take forever for the Saintess crystal to regain its current glory. Qing Devil didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would leave the state of cultivation so soon. He thought that it would take a long time. In addition, Di Baichen and the others all paid attention to her. It was not difficult for him to take the opportunity to leave. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had recovered so quickly. On the contrary, he had yet to copy down all the contents on the wall. It took too much time to transcribe this obscure language. Looking at the unfinished content, he subconsciously looked at Di Baichen and the others. If he didn't leave now, he might not be able to leave later. After making the decision, Qing Devil no longer hesitated. She quickly put away the copied content and rushed out of the gate of the Light Palace without hesitation. All the people present were immersed in the changes of the Holy Maiden crystal. They did not expect that Qing Devil would take the opportunity to leave at this time. After noticing his action, they were all stunned. Xiao So was completely dumbfounded. Didn't Qing Devil say that he would go back with her? Why did he suddenly choose to leave now? This was not what they had agreed on before. Chapter 59-60. Di Baichen had been paying attention to Qing Devil's movements. Before the Saintess crystal appeared, he had planned to take action against Qing Devil. Because it was the best time to take action. If they were destined to be enemies in the future, it would be better to take action as soon as possible. However, When he saw that Hong Zhuang had entered the state of cultivation, he put the thought aside for the time being. Once he took action, there would be a big disturbance. If Hong Zhuang was involved in this, he didn't want to see that. At this moment, he was sure that Qing Devil had guessed his idea. Therefore, even if he hadn't finished copying the contents on the wall, he chose to leave. Di Xiaofeng and the others reacted very quickly. After seeing Qing Devil start to run away, they immediately chased after him. The cultivators of the Jun family were all confused. They didn't understand why their young master suddenly started to run away. Even if he wanted to run away, he should at least take them with him. What should they do now that he suddenly left by himself? The cultivators of the Xiao family also looked at Xiao Shou. In this situation, they didn't know whether they should help or not. Xiao Shou didn't understand why Qing Devil did this either. However, she knew that once Di Beichen and the others caught Qing Devil, they would kill him without hesitation. She couldn't let Qing Devil's life be in danger. Therefore, she immediately asked the cultivators of the Xiao family to stop Di Beichen and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen rushed out. Bai Li Yanche and Linger also rushed out as fast as lightning. No matter what, they had to kill Qing Devil today. Qing Devil moved very fast, but he still clearly felt the qi behind him was getting closer and closer. In a hurry, he turned around and waved his hand casually, intending to block Di Beichen's attack. However, his cultivation was not as good as Di Beichen's. What's more, his hurried attack was no match for Di Beichen's attack. Bang! Di Beichen waved his hand fiercely, and Qing Devil's body flew backward. In the blink of an eye, everything happened in the span of a few breaths. Even though Qing Devil took the initiative, he was still hit by Di Beichen's palm before he left the gate. The terrible force behind Qing Devil shook his body. He felt that his internal organs seemed to have shifted, and blood instantly flowed out from the corners of his mouth. His dark eyes were full of coldness and hatred. Qing Devil was extremely disgusted by this sudden change in status. However, such a scene was not something he could change at the moment. Kill him. Di Beichen's voice was resolute and decisive. Di Beichen's cold eyes were full of bloodthirsty killing intent. This damnable fellow. His tolerance up to this point was already his limit. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were also filled with murderous intent. Earlier, they had almost all died in the hands of Azure Demon. Now they naturally wanted revenge. Obviously, the cultivators from the other big families didn't expect to see a fight so soon. Qing Devil's escape and attack were too sudden, but it didn't stop them from enjoying the show. The grudges between the four families had lasted for so many years. Almost every time, a fight would break out. But this time, it was more exciting. Chapter 5961. Xiao Shou rushed to Qing Devil's side. Noticing that Qing Devil was injured, she couldn't help but feel distressed. She shouted at once, "Hurry up! I'll stop them!" Azure Fiend was surprised when he heard the voice. However, he didn't even turn his head as he dashed out of the room. If he couldn't leave this time, then he would probably lose his life here. He was lucky in the past. Although his body was destroyed, his soul was still there. However, once he fell into the hands of Di Beichen and the others, they obviously wouldn't let his soul escape. What's more, this battlefield was so dangerous. If he missed this opportunity, he didn't know when he would be able to leave this place again. Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned when she saw Xiao Shou, who was trying to stop Qing Devil. She immediately took action. In her eyes, this woman was also unforgivable. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang's movements were as fast as lightning, a fierce punch fiercely landing on Xiao Seiwu's body. Xiao Seiwu was suddenly sent flying in an arc in the air, falling to the ground. At the same time, Di Beichen also caught up with Qing Devil. "You want to leave? It's not that easy." After realizing that Qin Haodong had caught up with him, Qing Devil's eyes flashed with a trace of sadness and coldness. "We don't have a big grudge against each other. Why do you keep pushing me?" Seeing that Qing Devil was going to use another way to get a chance to survive, Di Beichen remained unmoved. "You have two choices. Do you want to do it yourself, or let me do it for you?" Qin Haodong's cold voice was unquestionable. His face was as cold as ice. He didn't give Qing Devil any chance to quibble. In his eyes, Qing Devil was doomed to die. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Qing Devil's face darkened in an instant. Do you really want to push me to this point? Qing Devil stared at Di Beichen with bloodshot eyes. His voice was terrifyingly low. If you push me too far, you may not be able to bear the consequences. Cut the crap. Di Beichen waved his sleeves. His sharp eyes were full of murderous intent. It seems that you are waiting for me to do it myself. Di Beichen didn't waste any more words. He directly attacked Qing Devil. Qing Devil didn't expect Di Beichen to be like this. He didn't even give him a chance to breathe. However, Qing's attack was so fierce that he could only defend himself. At this moment, Xiao Sou had already wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and quickly walked to Azure Demon's side. During this period, all the people present knew clearly that Di Beichen's cultivation had improved. Qing Devil was no match for him. Therefore, she quickly joined the battle. How could the cultivators of the Jun family and the Xiao family just stand by and watch? One by one they joined the battle. Di Beichen wanted to kill their young master. Even if they had to risk their lives, they had to protect their young master. The second young master had died in the Xianyun mystery realm. If their young master died, their families would suffer a great blow in the future. At the same time, the Di family, the Lin family, the Bailey family, the Morong family, and the Jiang family didn't stay idle. Since their young master became friends with Di Beichen, they had been clear about their positions. It was undoubtedly the best choice to take advantage of this opportunity to eliminate the two opposing teams. Chapter 5962. Xiao Sudong's expression changed. Big sister, run. We are not their opponents at all. Just facing the Di family and the Lin family, they were already not their opponents, not to mention the Morong family, the Bailey family, the Jiang family, and even the Great Devil sect. This was a complete suppression. They did not even have the strength to fight back. The cultivators of the Jun family and the Xiao family collapsed in the face of such a situation. In fact, ever since they saw Di Beichen and the others together, they had a bad premonition in their minds, and were always worried that such a thing would happen. Now, the more they did not want to happen, the more it would happen. It happened so suddenly that they did not even have the time to react. Sudong, let's go. Xiao Sou completely gave up the idea of fighting after seeing this situation. With such a big disparity, it was impossible for them to win. Young master, you all leave quickly. Miss, we will hold on. You all leave quickly. The cultivators of the Jun family and the Xiao family were all prepared to die. As members of the family, protecting the safety of the young master was the most important thing. If they fell, there were other cultivators in the family who could rise up. But if the young master fell, it would be a huge blow to the entire family. When the nest is overturned, there are no eggs intact. They had no other choice. Bailey Hongzhuang coldly looked at the people blocking in front of her, her deep eyes rippling with a cold and cruel light. She understood that these people in front of her did not have a huge grudge with her, but both sides stood on different sides. No one was wrong, but no one had a way out. Because if both sides were on opposite sides, the other side would definitely not let them go. Being cruel to the opponent was being cruel to oneself. All she wanted was to protect the people she cared about. Kill. The cold voice was filled with endless killing intent. Bailey Hongzhuang held the thought-severing sword in her hand, and a sharp sword light came out from the tip of her sword. This was her first battle after her breakthrough, and she clearly felt how terrifying her improvement was during this period of time. Whether it was her strength or her control of spirit power, it was far from what it was in the past. A casual swing of the sword was more powerful than the sword she used all her strength to swing in the past. She wasn't the only one. Everyone was keenly aware of this. This discovery made them exceptionally excited. Blood dripped onto the ground. The faint smell of blood spread in the air and drifted into everyone's nostrils. Nangong Yuqing and the others watched as the Xiao family and the Jun family were powerless to fight back. This was a battle with a great disparity in strength. If they were to lend a hand, they would only be throwing their lives away. Ultimately, this was because Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou were not as strong as Di Beichen. If the two of them were strong enough, or if they had more friends, they would not have fallen into such a situation. Everyone could already predict that the Xiao family and the Jun family would no longer be a match for the Di family. However, just as the blood dripped onto the ground suddenly shook. The sudden turn of events attracted everyone's attention. Everyone turned their heads and heard a loud explosion in their ears. Immediately after, a huge force was transmitted over. Chapter 5963. Not only Bailey Hongzhuang, but everyone else also felt as if a tornado had swept past them. Without giving them any time to think, their bodies flew up uncontrollably. The wind howled, and their bodies swayed with the wind. Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that the wind's speed had weakened after they had been blown to a certain distance away. Then, she steadied herself and landed on the ground. The other cultivators also seized the opportunity to regain the initiative and returned to the ground one after another. What's going on? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. The sudden gust of wind was obviously beyond their expectations and completely ruined their plan. Di Beichen turned his eyes to a place not far away and found that the shining light had disappeared. He immediately understood what had happened. The statue of light has disappeared. This gust of wind should be sending us out. As Di Beichen's voice fell, everyone turned their heads to look. Sure enough, the statue of light and the statue of darkness had disappeared as if they had never appeared. I see. Everyone finally understood. They just didn't expect the timing to be so coincidental. It would have been best if they had killed the Qing devil and Xiao Shou. However, when the gust of wind came, everyone's foothold was different. In addition, the Qing devil would definitely try to escape as soon as possible. It would not be easy for them to catch up with him. What a pity, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. They missed such a good opportunity. Qing devil was cunning. If he went back, she was afraid that he would not come out in a short time. No matter what, they had to solve this problem before they went to the immortal realm. Otherwise, they would not feel at ease leaving. Di Xiaofeng and Lin Taxing both looked disappointed. Speaking of which, they had been holding a grudge against the Jun family for many years. They had always hoped to solve the problem once and for all. This was such a good opportunity. They did not expect that the scourge would have a chance to escape after living for thousands of years. Seeing that everyone was in low spirits, Lin Qianqian said, "No matter what, we've dealt a heavy blow to the Jun family and the Xiao family's troops. Many cultivators have died. No matter if it's the trip to the immortal cloud secret realm or this trip to the ancient battlefield, they've suffered heavy losses. We still have a great advantage." Everyone nodded one after another, especially the cultivators from the families who had been training together over the years. In the past, when they faced the Jun family, there were many times when they were evenly matched. Even if they had the upper hand, it was completely unlike now where they had the absolute upper hand. In the past 2 years, ever since the appearance of the young master and young madam, even with the addition of the Xiao clan, they still had the absolute upper hand. Other than being beaten up, the other party had no other way to deal with them. In short, during this period of time, they were really elated. Let's go. There are still other cultivators who have probably drifted further away. We have to meet up with them first. Di Beichen looked at the number of cultivators around him. It was obvious that some of them were not here. The gust of wind was so sudden that everyone controlled it at different times. Naturally, the location where it landed was also different. Unknowingly, they had been in the ancient battlefield for a while. He vaguely felt that the inheritance of the divine Hall of Light was the ultimate inheritance. Chapter 5964. Not only Di Beichen, but almost everyone had this thought in their minds. They had been here for a long time. What's more, they had already been to the places marked on the map. It was probably meaningless to continue to stay here. That's true, but we don't even know where the exit is. Lin Yi looked around blankly. When they first came in, it was a very secret exit. Everyone appeared in different places under random teleportation. The ancient battlefield was different from the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm. The Immortal Cloud Secret Realm was a place of experience that all major forces knew very well. After entering, they could clearly understand where the exit was. However, in this ancient battlefield, they had not found the location of the exit until now. Everyone looked at each other. In fact, this point had been hovering in everyone's mind for a long time. But every time they thought about it, they couldn't figure out the answer. Now that Lin Yi mentioned it, everyone was also at a loss. It seems that we have to look around for the exit. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. She always had such an idea in her mind, but she felt that the exit might appear after the time was up. But so far, no exit had been found. Thinking about how Qing Devil and Nine-Tailed Inferno Fox had been trapped in the ancient battlefield for so long, it was very scary in itself. They couldn't be trapped here too. Otherwise it would be really troublesome. Everyone nodded. Now everyone was no longer thinking about looking for the inheritance. The harvest this time was already very rich. What they needed to do was to return to the family. Everyone moved forward all the way. In fact, they were the cultivators who landed earlier, while the other cultivators were behind. The gust of wind was extremely violent. Even if it wrapped many cultivators, it still swept toward the back quickly. Even though they didn't stay in the wind for long, they had already traveled a long distance. Therefore, the other family cultivators were far away at this moment. As everyone gradually moved forward, they encountered some cultivators along the way. Of course, some of these cultivators were from their team, and some were from other forces. Almost everyone was scattered in this gust of wind, scattered to different places. The stronger the cultivators stopped earlier, while the weaker cultivators stayed closer to the back. Before long, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others met up with Morong Jing, Jiang Wenyan and Chen Feng. They also saw Chu Yingming, Nangong Yuqing and the others. However, they did not see Qing Devil and Xiao Sou. These two fellows are quite smart. They must have used the wind's speed to hide at the back. Lin Taxing's eyes narrowed slightly. His resolute face carried a trace of complexity and unwillingness. He really hoped that he could meet these two guys in the process, so that he could completely end the grudges of many years. Unfortunately, these two fellows were as cunning as foxes. Perhaps he would only have a chance to deal with them after he returned. It must be Qing Devil's idea, Di Beichen said. That's right. Xiao Soa doesn't have such a brain. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Compared to Jun Lingxuan, Qing Devil was undoubtedly much smarter. This was the reason why they had been quite afraid of him. Chapter 5965. In the process of searching, everyone also noticed the cultivators from the Xiao and Jun families. They also had no intention of letting these guys go. Since they were destined to be opponents, they must get rid of them. As the cultivators from the families gradually converged, there was only one thought left in everyone's minds, and that was to leave this place. After leaving the families for so long, everyone was already looking forward to going back. The Di family, Xia Wanrong could not help but look at the entrance of the Di family every day. Unknowingly, Di Beichen and the others had already gone out to train for several months. Until now, there had been no news at all. It was originally an unfamiliar place, and no one knew what kind of risks there would be inside. If there was any danger, she simply did not dare to think about it. Mother, you're looking again. Lin Yinqing looked at the longing expression on Xia Wanrong's face, and felt a little distressed. Xia Wanrong put away the worry in her heart, and turned to look at Lin Yinqing, who had recovered her spirit, and said with a smile, "Aren't you the same as me, often coming here to watch? The elders' hearts are all the same." Seeing that her thoughts were directly exposed by Xia Wanrong, Lin Yinqing was also a little helpless, but she still nodded and admitted, "Yes, I know that they will often go out to train, but every time they leave, I can't help but worry." As a member of an aristocratic family, she was actually very familiar with the norm of death. But even so, she still could not maintain a calm heart, because that was someone she cared about. Hong Zhuang's mother is the same. Although she has been cultivating, I noticed that she often comes out to take a look. She must be missing Hong Zhuang. Xia Wanrong sighed. They all had the same thoughts. This time, they have gone out to train for a long time. Logically speaking, they should be back soon. Lin Yinqing looked into the distance. Every day, she was looking forward to Beichen and the others returning safely. Only when she saw that they were safe with her own eyes could she be at ease. Actually, these children are very outstanding. I believe that they will come back safely. Xiao Wanrong's voice was a little more firm, and she did not know whether she was comforting herself or Lin Yinqing. Do the cultivators from the upper realm spend so much time training outside? Mu Lingbing's face was full of worry. They had been gone for so long, and there had been no news at all. How could she not be worried? Lan Yunxiao looked at Mu Lingbing's nervous expression and comforted her. I heard that the last time they went out to train, it was an entire year. This time, it hasn't even been a year, so you don't have to worry too much. Didn't you say that the place we're going to this time has never appeared before? Who knows what's happening inside? Mu Lingbing frowned. I've noticed that Yunqing often comes out to watch. She must be hoping that they'll come back soon. When children grow up, they will have their own world. Experience is also a path that they must take. I have confidence in Beichen and Hong Zhuang. They have always been outstanding. Yu Linfeng had a smile on his face. He couldn't be more satisfied with his disciple. How many cultivators from the lower realm came to the upper realm? The fact that these two little fellows had already carved out such a path at such a young age was already something that many of their peers could not compare to. Chapter 5966. Looking at Yu Linfeng's confident appearance, the originally gloomy atmosphere immediately became much more relaxed. I agree with Linfeng's words. Hong Zhuang and Beichen are truly outstanding. I don't think there are many in the upper realm who are their match, Situ Yen said with a smile. Father, aren't you being too confident? Mu Lingbing looked at Situ Yen, her lips curling into a smile. How many cultivators are there in the upper realm? Their cultivation resources are much more abundant than Hong Zhuang and the rest. So what? Situ Yen didn't care at all. In any case, in my opinion, they are the most outstanding. Mu Lingbing shook her head helplessly. She could tell from Situ Yan's expression how much he doted on his two children. Because he loved them too much, he thought they were the strongest and no one could compare to them. Don't worry. Have you forgotten about Hong Zhuang's chaos ring? Lan Yunxiao chuckled. With this divine artifact, they can usually keep their lives. After witnessing the miraculous effects of the chaos ring, he understood that it was a life-saving weapon. If they really couldn't handle it, they could just hide in the chaos ring. As a divine artifact, the space inside was extremely stable. Generally speaking, there wouldn't be any problems. It was because of this that he wasn't so worried. Otherwise, as a father, he would be worried as well. That's true. Mu Lingbing felt a little more at ease. She had been so worried that she had completely forgotten about this. You can cultivate in peace. Otherwise, when Hong Zhuang and the rest return, and we realize that our cultivation is much lower than theirs, it would be embarrassing. Mu Jins chuckled. She had heard some news about the ancient battlefield. Since many cultivators could quickly break through before it even opened, the rewards would definitely be bountiful. She believed that when Hong Zhuang and the rest returned, their strength would definitely increase greatly. After Bailey Hong Zhuang and the others moved forward, suddenly, they vaguely felt a force of attraction coming from the front. Noticing this force, everyone immediately looked at each other, and then quickened their pace and rushed forward. Although the attraction was very obvious, when everyone rushed over, they found that the distance was still very far. After walking for a few hours, they finally arrived at their destination. Joy surfaced on everyone's faces as they looked at the exit that was covered by the fog in front of them. What they were most worried about was being trapped here and not being able to get out. But now they could finally leave this place. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. Thinking that they could return to their families, they couldn't help but feel happy. Now I can finally rest assured. Di Xiaofeng smiled. I don't know how long I've been in the ancient battlefield. It's time to go back. Since the exit has appeared, there's no need to hesitate. Let's leave quickly. Bailey Hong Zhuang looked at the exit. They had already received the most fortunate baptism in the ancient battlefield, and had no regrets. As for when the light god statue and the darkness god statue would appear next time, no one knew. Bachin immediately arranged for the D family's cultivators to walk towards the exit one by one. He instructed, "Gather at the exit and wait for us to arrive." Yes. Chapter 5967. I didn't expect the Qing devil to leave with Jun Lingshuan's body in the end. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. This guy was really a headache. Don't think like that. Maybe this is an opportunity given to us by God. Di Xiaofeng smiled faintly. Don't forget that we still have our family's inheritance. Jun Lingshuan's younger brother is already dead. Now the one with the strongest bloodline in their family is him. If Jun Lingshuan is also dead, it will be a bit troublesome to open the inheritance. Maybe God wants us to open the inheritance, so he let Jun Lingshuan live a little longer. That's right. Although Jun Lingshuan is already dead, the Qing devil has taken over his body. The bloodline power is still the same. Di Baichen replied. Perhaps this was the only consolation. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. In fact, she was really curious about what the family's realm of inheritance was. For this realm of inheritance, they had already thought of many ways. They hoped that they could open it after returning this time. For the secret of the three great families. She also wanted to test whether her and Baichen's bloodline could open this realm of inheritance. If they could, then they just had to think of a way to get the Xiao and Jun family's secret keys. This way, they wouldn't have to be suppressed by these two families in the future. However, just as Di Xiaofeng was about to pass through the entrance, the nine-tailed inferno fox's voice suddenly sounded. No, I can't go out. Di Xiaofeng was stunned. He asked in confusion why. I'm a monster from the immortal region, and I came to this battlefield. There are restrictions on this battlefield. I can't leave at all. The nine-tailed inferno fox's voice suddenly became heavy. It had stayed in this battlefield for so many years, and couldn't find a way to leave. Now that it finally found the exit, as long as it left here, it could live like before. However, when Di Xiaofeng approached the exit, it felt a terrifying force suppressing it. As long as it dared to try to enter the entrance, it was almost certain that it would instantly turn into powder and cease to exist. Then what should we do? Di Xiaofeng was also dumbfounded. He had promised the nine-tailed inferno fox that he would take it away, but he didn't expect the exit to be right in front of them, and the nine-tailed inferno fox couldn't enter. I don't know either. The nine-tailed inferno fox sank into deep thought. Originally, when it saw the cultivators from the upper realm accidentally entering this place, it thought that it finally saw the hope of leaving. However, it never thought that the restriction had always existed. As long as the restriction existed, he would not be able to leave. Di Baichen suddenly said, You can't leave my big brother's body, but if you become my big brother's contracted beast and enter the contracted space, will you be able to leave? Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. That should be possible. It was natural for cultivators to leave with their contracted beasts. Di Xiaofeng's eyes also changed slightly, and his heartbeat suddenly became violent. He never had a contracted beast because he couldn't find a suitable one, and he didn't want to waste this opportunity. Until he saw the nine-tailed inferno fox, he hoped to make it his contracted beast. However, he also knew that the difference in strength between them was too great, so he gave up on this idea. Chapter 5968. The nine-tailed inferno fox fell into silence. It had never thought of becoming a contract beast. With its status, if it were to become a contract beast, it would be a joke if word got out. If it had the chance to return to the upper realm in the future, how would it have the face to meet its former friends? No, it could not accept that. However, it had already stayed in this damned ancient battlefield for so many years. If it continued to stay here, its soul would gradually wither away until it disappeared from this world. Perhaps it would wait until it died without a chance to leave. When it thought of this possibility, it hesitated and did not know how to choose. When Di Xiaofeng saw that the nine-tailed inferno fox did not agree, he felt a little helpless. However, when he saw Di Baichen give him a look, his heart instantly sank. Based on the nine-tailed inferno fox's previous arrogance, once this suggestion was made, it would definitely reject it without hesitation. However, after he made the suggestion, the nine-tailed inferno fox did not reject it immediately. This meant that there was a turning point in this matter. Bailey Hongzhuang also realized this point, and a trace of a smile appeared in her eyes. If Big Brother could obtain this contract beast, even if it was just a soul, it would be enough to crush a group of young cultivators. Moreover, with the nine-tailed inferno fox's abilities, it might be able to recover its true form in the future. When that time comes, Big Brother would not be an ordinary eye-catching person. Nine-tailed inferno fox, you should consider it carefully. If you give up this chance, you might really have to stay here for the rest of your life. Di Baichen said in a low voice. He had to think of a way to help Big Brother keep the nine-tailed inferno fox. Bai Li Yanche saw the situation and said, "As long as I can live, what does the rest matter? If I die like this, it's really not worth it." It was a beast king, and its status was higher than the nine-tailed inferno fox. He had also become a contract beast, but he did not care. On the contrary, he felt that this was very good. Moreover, his relationship with his sister was more like family. After hearing Bai Li Yanche's words, the nine-tailed inferno fox's gaze became even more complicated. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest saw that the nine-tailed inferno fox did not make any more sounds, they felt a little strange. However, they quickly noticed that Bai Li Yanche seemed to be communicating with the nine-tailed inferno fox through telepathy, but they did not know what exactly they were talking about. After a long while, the nine-tailed inferno fox finally spoke. "I can agree to it. However, I also hope that you can agree to a condition of mine." "Go ahead. When we get out of here, Di Baichen, you have to go somewhere with me." Di Baichen raised his eyebrows slightly. "You mean to meet the dark attribute demonic beast that you mentioned earlier?" "That's right," the nine-tailed inferno fox said seriously. Di Baichen sank into silence. The nine-tailed inferno fox kept emphasizing this matter, which made him feel strange. However, logically speaking, once the nine-tailed inferno fox became Big Brother's contract beast, it would be one of them, and there should not be any danger. "Big Brother, don't worry. It won't be a problem." Bai Li Yanche transmitted. Di Baichen glanced at Bai Li Yanche and nodded. "Alright, I promise you." He was full of trust towards Bai Li Yanche. He vaguely felt that the conversation between the nine-tailed inferno fox and Bai Li Yanche was related to this matter. When all this was over, he would ask Yanche properly and understand what was going on. Chapter 5969. The contract was not complicated. After the nine-tailed inferno fox agreed from the bottom of its heart, the contract between Di Xiaofeng and it was quickly completed. When Emperor Xiaofeng faintly sensed it, a dazzling smile appeared on his face. He did not expect that leaving the ancient battlefield would bring him such a pleasant surprise. His harvest this time was really rich. "Let's try again if we can leave," Di Baichen said in a deep voice. In fact, he did not know much about the restriction of the ancient battlefield. However, logically speaking, there should not be any problems. Di Xiaofeng nodded and approached the exit again. This time, the nine-tailed inferno fox did not feel the terrifying pressure and smoothly walked out of the ancient battlefield with Di Xiaofeng. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen looked at each other and followed closely. Huang Futing and the rest followed behind Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Xiaofeng and immediately walked out of the ancient battlefield together. When everyone stood at the entrance of the ancient battlefield again, they were filled with emotions. This trip had brought them too much shock. They thought that there were no treasures in this place, but they did not expect that it would bring them so many surprises. The harvest this time was greater than any of the previous times. After Bailey Hongzhuang came out, she looked at everyone around her. However, she did not find Xiao Souo and the rest in the crowd. These fellows had probably fled as soon as they came out. Wait, a thought suddenly appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's mind. Since the nine-tailed Inferno Fox's body could not come out, did that mean that the Qing Devil could not come out either? After all, the nine-tailed Inferno Fox was also in a spiritual state. After the Qing Devil took over the nine-tailed Inferno Fox, its body changed, but its soul did not change. If that restriction targeted the soul, then the Qing Devil should continue to be trapped in the ancient battlefield. Wife, what are you thinking about? Di Baichen saw Bailey Hongzhuang's serious face and asked with concern. Bailey Hongzhuang spoke out her thoughts, and the two turned to look at Di Xiaofeng. They were afraid that only the nine-tailed Inferno Fox could give them an accurate answer. Yes, the Qing Devil can't come out. The nine-tailed Inferno Fox spoke with certainty. Actually, it's not that the exit of the ancient battlefield has never appeared before. It's just that we are simply unable to leave. In fact, both Qing Devil and I thought that this was our chance to leave after we saw so many cultivators enter this place. However, we didn't expect that the restriction formation was still there. I believed that Qing Devil hadn't thought of this possibility either, but I was sure that he wouldn't be able to get out. If he tries desperately, his soul will definitely turn into ashes. Recalling how terrifying the restriction was, even the nine-tailed Inferno Fox felt some lingering fear. Just by approaching it, she could feel the oppressive power. Even breathing had become exceptionally difficult. It was simply not something they could cross. I didn't expect there to be such a restriction. It's really strange. Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but sigh. However, it was a good thing for them that the Qing Devil couldn't appear as Jun Lingxuan. No, there is a restriction formation between the immortal realm and the upper world. The cultivators in the immortal realm are far more powerful than those in the upper world. If they enter the upper world, the strength of the cultivators in the immortal realm will be suppressed to a certain extent, and they won't be able to surpass the strongest cultivation in the upper world. Chapter 5970. This is to protect the next plane. Otherwise, once the cultivators from the immortal region come to the upper realm, the people from the upper realm won't be able to resist at all. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also understood. They had to admit that this method was indeed better. Even the cultivators from the immortal region couldn't pose a huge threat to the upper realm. In contrast, the cultivators from the upper realm didn't have such restrictions when they went to the lower realm, so there were all kinds of dangers. Fortunately, after returning, out of concern for the lower realm, the Di family sent a cultivator to the lower realm to pay attention to the situation of the Tiangang sect. If something like that happened again, the Tiangang sect, the Lan family, and the others would have the power to resist. I see. No wonder this happened. Di Xiaofeng's eyes lit up, and he couldn't help but yearn for the immortal region. He had already heard about the immortal region from the nine-tailed Inferno Fox. He thought that Baichen and Di Xiaofeng would be very surprised when they heard the news. Who would have thought that the two of them were not surprised at all, as if they had already heard about it? Could it be that they had heard about it from Qing Devil before? Di Xiaofeng was confused. He felt that he had to find a chance to have a good chat with Baichen. Speaking of which, although his younger brother had been living in the lower realm before, he seemed to know more things than them. After the cultivators gathered, Di Baichen said, "Let's go home." Home. Hearing these two warm words, a warm smile appeared on everyone's faces. After being out for so long, they had been looking forward to going home as soon as possible. Before leaving, Di Baichen and the others said goodbye to Jiang Wenyan, and the others one by one. When they were dealing with Qing Devil and the others, they didn't forget everyone's help. "Wenyan, thank you for before," Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. Although their friendship originally came somewhat inexplicably, after this trip to the ancient battlefield, their relationship became closer and closer. "Aren't we on the same side?" Jiang Wenyan chuckled. "Then why are you still being so polite? If it weren't for you, I would have been dead long ago." He helped her deal with Xiao Sou, but he wanted to deal with the Qing Devil. This fellow had almost taken his life earlier. Now that he had the chance to take revenge, how could he not make a move? "I look forward to our next meeting." Di Baichen also had a smile on his face. He cherished friends who treated him with sincerity. I believe it won't be far. At the same time, Di Xiaofeng also went to thank Morong Jing. This good brother of his had treated him sincerely for so many years. In fact, he was no different from a new brother. The two of them didn't exchange any pleasantries, and even words like thank you seemed unfamiliar to them. Let's not talk too much. If you need me, just let me know. Di Xiaofeng patted Morong Jing's shoulder with a warm smile on his face. Of course. Morong Jing raised his eyebrows. If something happened to me, how could you not be there? Chen Feng walked toward them. Beichen Hongzhuang, we are leaving. Di Beichen nodded. Thank you for your help earlier. Chen Feng's lips curled into a faint smile, and the cold lines on his face softened. What I did was merely icing on the cake. With your strength, there is no problem at all. Chapter 5971. Chen Feng was a person who rarely made friends. However, ever since they had met on the deck, their friendship had gradually been established. Even if he rarely expressed it, Di Beichen and others could feel it. Perhaps Chen Feng was a person who did more than he spoke. He never took the initiative to talk about this, but every time he saw Di Beichen and others in danger, he would help them silently. Such a friendship was naturally deeply engraved in their hearts. If Chen Feng needed help in the future, they would not refuse. Chen Feng's smile widened a little. He felt that the reason why he could become friends with Di Beichen and others might be because of this attitude. Ling Xiao, we are leaving. Lin Yi looked at Ao Ling Xiao and said slowly. A trace of complexity flashed in Ao Ling Xiao's eyes. He nodded slightly and said, Okay, have a safe trip. Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but say, Ling Xiao, when are you going to meet us? Ao Ling Xiao was stunned and said, I plan to come to you after bringing the family's children back. Originally, he wanted to find Di Beichen and others as soon as he returned to the family, but there were a lot of things in the family that he needed to understand. After all, he had left the family for many years without knowing it. A lot of things had happened over the years. His elder brother had taken advantage of this time to clean up the family. After he went back, he naturally had to reorganize everything. He didn't want the past to happen again. The entire Ao family could no longer afford such a thing. Fortunately, after this period of handling, the family's situation had been completely stabilized. He could go to the Di family with peace of mind. When Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang came over, they heard Ao Ling Xiao's words. The two looked at each other and smiled. Ling Xiao, if you have arranged the family's affairs, you can come to us. Even if you don't come to us, it's also good to go to the Lin family to learn. Di Beichen smiled. He had known Ao Ling Xiao for a long time. How could they not see Ao Ling Xiao's thoughts when he coaxed Lin Yi? Yi had always been in pain, but now that she thought about it, perhaps she had mistaken worship for love. At the very least, Yi would be much happier with Ao Ling Xiao around. If the two of them could really get together in the future, that would be something everyone would be happy to see. Hearing Di Beichen's suggestive words, Ao Ling Xiao scratched his head in embarrassment. This. Lin Qianqian turned her eyes to look at Lin Yi next to her. Only then did she find that Lin Yi's expression was a little shy. It had been more than 2 years since she found out that Xiao Feng had a sweetheart. If there was someone who could completely undo the knot in Yi's heart, it would be something she, as an elder sister, would be willing to see. Ling Xiao, your Ao clan used to have a good relationship with our clan. If you have nothing to do, you can come visit our clan. Lin Taxing also smiled. As the big brother, he was not a fool. Although the Ao clan was not a big clan, Ao Ling Xiao was a very good person. He felt that it was necessary to tell his family about this matter when he returned home. It would be best if his family did not object. Big brother. Chapter 5972. Everyone's faces showed a kind smile. If they could really get together, it would indeed be a good thing. Ao Ling Xiao was originally worried that his identity was not worthy of Lin Yi at all. But after seeing everyone's support for them, His heart couldn't help but be excited. He liked Lin Yi. Since the first time he saw Lin Yi sad for Di Xiaofeng, he began to feel distress for this girl. She liked someone so seriously, after knowing that the other party didn't like her, and already had someone she really liked. She was so sad, but she still learned to grow up. What he always wanted to do was to make Lin Yi happy. She should be a happy person. Sadness and pain were not suitable for her at all. When they met again this time, he found that Lin Yi had already walked out of the pain at the beginning. This was what made him happiest. Seeing her like this, he clearly knew that he might have fallen in love with Lin Yi for a long time. After Ao Lingxiao gave an affirmative answer that he would come to them later, everyone set off on their return journey. On the way back, everyone was in high spirits and full of vigor. When they were training, they missed their family the most. Now they could finally return in triumph. Bailey Hongzhuang took out some cultivation resources and instructed the Bailey family's cultivators to bring them back. She was now going back to the D family to visit her family. After everything was done, she would go to the Bailey family. Now that the teleportation array between the D family and the Bailey family had been completed, it was very convenient to go there. Di Beichen planned to take Huang Futing and the others back together, but for the sake of caution, he finally gave up this plan. The matter of the Dark Sacred Assembly could not be publicized for the time being, but when Di Beichen was ready, they would bring a huge surprise to the world. After the incident in the Dark Divinity Palace, Huang Futing and the others admired Di Beichen to the extreme. At first, they felt that Di Beichen's talent in the dark attribute was far superior to other cultivators. Now it seemed that Di Beichen was the destined person of the dark attribute. He could easily open the door of the Dark Divinity Palace. He was the hope of the dark attribute. The most important thing was that this leader, be it in terms of strength or character, was what everyone expected. Following him, everyone submitted to him from the bottom of their hearts. The Di family. Xiao Wanrong stood in front of the Di family's gate with Lin Yunqing beside her. Yunqing, I don't know why, but I have a feeling that Beichen and the others will come back today. Xiao Wanrong's face was filled with anticipation. Last night, I dreamed of their triumphant return. That dream was very real. Hearing this, Lin Yunqing also felt that it was very interesting. Her grandmother really missed her grandson. She would come every day during this period. However, she also felt that it was time for Beichen and the others to return. When Mu Lingbing arrived, she noticed the two of them talking. She walked over slowly and smiled. Are you waiting for Beichen and the others? Lingbing. Lin Yunqing smiled and said, Mother was just saying that she had a premonition that Beichen and the others would come back today. While the three of them were talking, the sound of footsteps suddenly came from outside. The three of them couldn't help but look at each other. Could it be that their premonition had come true? Chapter 5973. Beichen Look. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled as she looked at the three familiar figures in front of her. Her mother was worried when her son traveled 1,000 miles. This sentence was indeed true. They happened to see this scene when they came back today. Presumably, before they came back, this scene must have happened often. Thinking of how they didn't manage to wait for them to come back, everyone couldn't help feeling a little sad. Mu Lingbing and the other two immediately noticed Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen, and Di Xiaofeng at the front of the group. Their hearts that had been hanging in the air for the past few days were now completely at ease. At least, everyone had returned safely. Just by looking at the entire group, the number of people didn't seem to have changed much from before. Mother, grandmother, Di Beichen and the others sped up and quickly came in front of Lin Yunqing and the others. Xiao Wanrong's face was full of joy. Come and let grandmother take a look. Grandmother, don't worry. We all came back safe and sound. Di Beichen smiled. Good, good, good. Xiao Wanrong couldn't hide her joy. She carefully looked at everyone before clapping her hands. That's great, you're finally back. Bailey Hongzhuang walked to Mu Lingbing's side and held her mother's arm. She smiled and said, Mother, I've made you all worry. Actually, I was worried for nothing. Mu Lingbing was a little embarrassed, but her eyes were slightly moist. I know that you all need a long time to train, but I always wanted to come and see. Today, I finally see you all back. Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen, and Di Xiaofeng each held on to one person as they walked into the family. Along the way, they roughly described what they had encountered. The elders couldn't go with them, but they were also extremely curious about the situation in the ancient battlefield. That ancient battlefield is actually so special? When Mu Lingbing heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words, her eyes were filled with shock. What darkness god statue and light god statue? Just hearing about it was enough to shock her. It was something she couldn't even imagine. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Everyone who went there was shocked after seeing this scene. Fortunately, the statue didn't have any malicious intent towards us. On the contrary, it helped us a lot. That's good. Mu Lingbing patted Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. Hongzhuang, you're a lucky person. In this period of time, Mu Lingbing had also clearly understood her daughter's status in the Di family. She knew that the Di family wouldn't mistreat Hongzhuang, and this made her feel completely at ease. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. She knew that what her mother wanted most was to see her living well. Following the appearance of Di Beichen's group, the entire Di family fell into a deep surprise. Young master is back. Eldest young master is back. They're back from their training. For a moment, this voice continuously spread throughout the Di family. 1 spread to 10, 10 spread to 100, and all the clansmen who heard the news quickly rushed over. Di Yujue and Di Linxian rushed over as soon as they heard the news. At the same time, Lan Yunxiao and the others also rushed over as soon as they heard the news. Chapter 5974. As all the clansmen rushed out, Di Beichen and the rest became the center of attention. When everyone saw the familiar faces, their hearts that had been hanging in the air for the past few days were finally at ease. Di Yujue looked at Di Beichen and the rest with a smile. His handsome face was filled with gratification and pride. Welcome back. It was a simple sentence, but it touched everyone's heart. After leaving the clan for so long, they deeply felt that there was nothing happier than returning to the clan. Di Linxian looked at the faces in front of him, that were filled with vitality, and felt comforted. They were the hope of their clan. After sensing the increase in the aura of the group of young people, he was a little surprised, but more than that, he was pleasantly surprised. Looking at the situation, you guys have improved quite a bit recently. As Di Linxuan's voice fell, Di Yujue and the rest began to sense carefully. As soon as they sensed, a trace of astonishment appeared on their faces. This was because they sensed an extremely shocking aura from Di Beichen and the rest. If I remember correctly, you guys were still in the nebula realm when you left. Di Yujue looked at Di Beichen in disbelief. At that time, he clearly remembered Beichen's cultivation, and had always hoped that Beichen could break through to the Radiant Moon realm before entering the ancient battlefield. That way, they would be safer in the ancient battlefield. However, now that he sensed Beichen's aura, it was clearly in the Heavenly Moon realm. It had not even been a year since they entered the ancient battlefield. How could there be such a shocking improvement? Looking at his father's astonished expression, Di Beichen felt that it was very interesting. He chuckled and said, "Yes. Then your aura now." Di Yujue was secretly speechless. Such a breakthrough speed was simply too shocking. Even though he had already sensed it, he still found it hard to believe. Most importantly, it was not only Beichen and the other two's strength that had improved so much. He noticed that all the cultivators' strength had improved as a whole. If it were any other time, it would have taken a long time for such a huge leap in strength. However, in less than a year's time, there was such a huge leap in strength. The ancient battlefield was probably an incredible opportunity. Father, Beichen is already in the Heavenly Moon stage. Di Xiaofeng laughed. It was rare to see such an expression on his father's face. It was simply too interesting. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the family was stunned. Heavenly Moon stage. Xiao Wanrong was also dumbfounded. 2 whole major realms of improvement or even more. How was this done? Di Baichen smiled faintly and nodded. Everyone has gained a lot from the ancient battlefield. Di Lin Xian. And the others immediately understood. Just from the increase in their strength, they knew that their gains would be extremely bountiful. Don't be in such a hurry to ask now. Everyone just came back and must be tired. Let's go back and rest first. Xiao Wanrong looked at the group of cultivators with concern. Although everyone looked excited, they must be very tired after going out to train for so long. It was not easy to return to the family. The most important thing was to have a good meal and rest. It would not be too late to ask about other things in detail. That's right. Everyone go back and rest first. Di Yujue smiled. Yes, Patriarch. Chapter 5975. After the cultivators had returned to their own residences, the crowd that had gathered near the square gradually dispersed. Almost all the cultivators who had not gone out for training wanted to find cultivators they were familiar with to ask about the situation on the ancient battlefield. Such a huge improvement was simply unheard of, and the process of training must have been exceptionally exciting. The younger children couldn't hold back the excitement and yearning in their hearts. They were still too young, and they couldn't go to the training grounds at all. However, it was these heroic deeds that urged them to grow up quickly and become a part of the training grounds. Bailey Hongzhuang held Mu Lingbing's arm, and the group walked towards their residences. Hongzhuang, you haven't had a good rest for so many days. You must be tired. Have a good rest today. Mu Lingbing looked at Hongzhuang with concern. She was proud of her daughter's improvement, but she felt that her daughter had lost a lot of weight after leaving this time, and her heart ached at the sight of it. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and shook her head. Mother, I'm not tired. Every time I see you, I feel like I have an endless amount of energy. Even if I were to go back now, I wouldn't be able to calm down. Why don't I have a good chat with you? Lin Yunqing and the others who were standing at the side felt their hearts soften when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate and adorable appearance. This girl was usually so sensible that it made people gasp in admiration, but when she was being considerate, it made people feel happy from the bottom of their hearts. Hongzhuang, are you telling the truth? Xiao Wanrong smiled gently. She liked this granddaughter-in-law more, and more the more she looked at her. Compared to that Xiao Sou, she liked her a lot more. Of course. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and her bright eyes glowed even more brightly. Grandmother, how would I dare to lie to you? Speaking of which, your granddaughter-in-law is the most considerate. Xiao Wanrong patted Bailey Hongzhuang's smile, and her affectionate manner was just like a biological grandmother. When Mu Jin's and the others saw the unconcealable fondness on Xiao Wanrong's face, their hearts were comforted. It was precisely because they saw this kind of love that couldn't be pretended that they were completely relieved. They knew that the Di family was sincere to Hongzhuang. As Hongzhuang's family, they could not help her at all. In fact, they might even drag her down. Therefore, they could not help but worry about this. Fortunately, things did not develop in the direction they were worried about. They did not have to worry about Hongzhuang being taken advantage of here in the future. Everyone laughed as they walked to the conference hall. On the way, Di Baichen and Di Xiaofeng briefly talked about what happened in the ancient battlefield. As for Mo Yunjue and the rest, they had also returned to rest. The journey wasn't too tiring for them. After all, in the ancient battlefield this time, they had not only improved their cultivation, but also their physique. However, for Wen Xiren, after eating dry rations for so long, what he looked forward to the most this time was a good meal. In the conference hall, unlike the usual serious and solemn atmosphere, the assembly hall was currently filled with a relaxed and joyful atmosphere. Everyone casually found a comfortable seat and sat down. The attendants had already prepared tea and snacks for everyone to gather in the conference hall. The group of elders listened excitedly to Di Baichen, and the other's introduction of the ancient battlefield. This was a land of heritage that had never appeared before, and none of them knew what was inside. Chapter 5976. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two spoke one after another about what they had experienced in the ancient battlefield, the elders could not help but be shocked and surprised. The cultivators in there are actually so powerful. Di Linshuan's face darkened slightly. He knew that his grandson was not someone who liked to brag, so what he said was naturally the truth. However, it was because of this that he felt terrified. There were so many cultivators who were far more powerful than them. Fortunately, they were dead. If they were not dead and appeared in the upper realm, it would be a disaster that could destroy heaven and earth. Di Xiaofeng nodded slightly. Indeed, they were very powerful. It was completely beyond my imagination. There were many storage rings and magic tools scattered on the ground, but just the aura alone was enough to intimidate me to the point that I couldn't get close at all, so I could only choose to give up. Even though it had been so long, he still felt a lingering fear when he thought about it now. Di Yujue and the others looked at each other and thought of the same place. There were so many powerful cultivators. There was probably no other place besides the crossing immortal domain. It was a place that they knew existed for a long time. But until now, they had not come into contact with the method to go to the crossing immortal domain. Among all of them, only Xu Yu had been to the crossing celestial domain, and had even returned from there. However, no matter who went to ask, Xu Yu refused to talk about this matter. They were also very impatient. However, now that these powerhouses were so close to the upper realm, they could not help but feel terrified. After noticing the solemn expressions of the elders, Di Beichen guessed what they were thinking. He immediately said, "Grandfather, father, you don't have to be too worried about this matter." As soon as he said that, Di Yujue and the others looked at Di Beichen. From what we know, whether it's the immortal domain or the crossing immortal domain, even if cultivators come to the upper realm, they will be restricted by the laws of heaven and earth. They won't be able to display their strength in the immortal domain here. Once they use it, they will be directly crushed into nothingness by the natural laws. Therefore, what you're worried about won't happen. Di Yujue was a little surprised. How do you know this? This is all thanks to you, big brother. Di Beichen chuckled. Xiao Wanrong and the others were puzzled. Xiaofeng, how did you know? Facing his family's inquisitive look, the smile on Emperor Xiaofeng's lips became brighter and brighter, and his expression revealed a trace of pride. This time, I contracted a contracted beast from the immortal domain. Following Di Xiaofeng's words, the entire conference hall fell silent for a moment. The expressions of Xiao Wanrong and others seemed to be suddenly frozen. They stared blankly at Di Xiaofeng, wondering if they had heard wrong. The immortal region. Di Yujue frowned. The immortal region should be a place stronger than the crossing immortal region, right? Although he didn't know much about these things, he could tell from the name alone. Not bad. Di Xiaofeng replied, and slowly explained the situation of the nine-tailed inferno fox. Actually, with my strength, I couldn't contract it. Fortunately, Beichen helped me. He knew very well that if the nine-tailed inferno fox didn't want Beichen to agree to its condition, it probably wouldn't agree so easily. No matter what, this is excellent news. Chapter 5977. Although Di Xiaofeng really wanted everyone to see the appearance of the nine-tailed inferno fox, unfortunately, even if they had completed the contract, an existence like the nine-tailed inferno fox was not so easy to call. This guy wouldn't have made the contract if he had a choice. Di Xiaofeng didn't want to force it. If it were him, he probably wouldn't be willing to have such a weak master either. However, he wouldn't feel discouraged because of this. He just deeply realized that his current strength wasn't enough. He would work hard to improve his cultivation, until the day the nine-tailed inferno fox was willing to accept him as its master. He believed that such a day would come. I have a very important news to tell everyone. With a serious look on his handsome face, Di Baichen slowly said, Jun Lingxuan has been possessed by the Qing devil. As soon as these words came out, the entire conference hall paused again. Everyone was shocked again. Jun Lingxuan has been possessed. Di Linxian was in disbelief. This kind of thing wasn't strange to them. But there weren't many people who could do this. Jun Lingxuan was the young master of the Jun family. The impact of him being possessed wasn't small. Di Baichen nodded. Yes, we saw this with our own eyes. Does the Jun family know? Di Yujue said in a deep voice. If the Jun family didn't know this news, a soul from the upper realm would become their opponent. That would be the most troublesome thing. This matter is a bit complicated. After Di Baichen explained the process of the matter in detail, Xiao Wanrong and the others were also a bit incredulous. So Xiao Sou has been protecting the Qing devil? That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Her delicate jade-like face was a bit complicated. I vaguely feel that Xiao Sou seems to have fallen in love with the Qing devil. That's why she has been protecting him. It was not because of the hatred between her and Xiao Sou, but because she felt it when she saw Xiao Sou risking her life to protect Qing devil. For a woman, she must like the man very much. Only then would she be willing to give up everything for him. Otherwise, with Xiao Sou's personality, she would never do such a thing. When Jun Lingxuan was still alive, Xiao Sui was also serious about him. However, it was obviously not as serious as his affection for Qing devil. As long as this was confirmed, then all the seemingly inexplicable things Xiao Sou had done during this period of time could be explained. Xiao Wanrong and the others looked at each other. This situation was indeed somewhat difficult to accept in their view. Xiao Sou had never accepted anyone before. However, in the past 2 years, she first fell in love with Di Baichen, and then got engaged to Jun Lingxuan. This speed was not slow. Who would have thought that in the blink of an eye, she would fall in love with a man who possessed Jun Lingxuan? That man was her enemy. I also agree with Hong Zhuang's judgment. Di Baichen said. Di Xiaofeng nodded. In fact, I think so too. Although it's a bit hard to believe, I really think so. Seeing that the 3 juniors had the same opinion, everyone had to believe the news no matter how hard they thought it was. Perhaps Xiao Sou was a person who changed her love very quickly. There were such women in the world. Chapter 5978. If the Qing devil left the ancient battlefield, then he might live on as Jun Lingxuan, which is indeed troublesome for us. Di Baichen's deep and magnetic voice sounded a little heavy. His eyes were deep and complicated. However, according to the nine-tailed inferno fox, the Qing devil might not be able to leave the ancient battlefield. Therefore, we have to wait for the news from the Jun family to confirm this. He was biased towards the nine-tailed inferno fox's judgment. As long as the Qing devil did not come out, the disappearance of the Jun family's young master would definitely be a big blow to the Jun family. If that's the case, we can rest assured. Then Di Baichen and the others introduced the light statue and the darkness statue. This was completely beyond the knowledge of Di Yujue and the others. Even they had never come into contact with such statues. Just hearing about it was already very shocking. If they had known about the situation inside, they would have gone there personally. Such a fortuitous encounter was simply unimaginable. As for the increase in talent, it was even more shocking. Fortunately, you have gained a lot this time. Di Yujue suppressed the shock in his heart. Although they were not lucky enough to see the 2 statues, the younger generation had gained a lot this time. It was very worth it. In comparison, the Jun family and the Xiao family would find it hard to accept after hearing the news. The Xiao family. When Xiao Sou and Xiao Sudong returned to the family, a group of cultivators naturally came out to welcome them. However, when Xiao Yanlong saw the sparse few cultivators, his expression turned extremely ugly. He quickly walked to Xiao Sudong and Xiao Yanlong and asked nervously, "What's going on? Did Di Baichen and the others do it?" He was no stranger to such a scene. When the Divine Cloud secret realm ended, the Jun family was faced with such a scene. However, he had never thought that such a thing would happen to the Xiao clan one day. Those who had gone to the ancient battlefield this time were all youths with great potential from the Xiao clan. However, less than 1/10 of them had returned. How could he accept this? For a family, the younger generation meant hope. Every young cultivator was nurtured by the family with a lot of effort. However, now that so many of them had perished, how could he not feel heartache? Xiao Sudong's mood could be said to be extremely low these days. Originally, he was still in high spirits after his death. Who would have thought that he would be targeted to this extent by Di Baichen and the others? If they hadn't run fast enough at the last moment, they would have been killed by Di Baichen and the others. At this moment, when he heard his father's concerned question, he immediately said angrily, "Who else could it be? Father, they are really going too far." They actually joined forces with the Morong family, the Jiang family, and even the Great Devil sect to kill us all. Xiao Sudong's eyes were red and burning with rage. If the heavens had helped us and given us a chance to escape, I'm afraid we would have been completely annihilated this time. Just thinking about the tragic scene at that time, he couldn't help but feel his heart ache and tremble with anger. It's these damned bastards. If I don't take revenge, I'm not a gentleman. Chapter 59-79. The cultivators in the team were all dejected at this moment. Back when they had gone out for training, nothing like this had ever happened. However, the teams of the Di family, the Lin family, the Morong family, the Jiang family, and even the Great Devil sect flashed through their minds. They only felt that if they wanted to save their lives, they should never participate in any training in the future, and never meet the Di family again. Otherwise they would really be finished. The members of the Xiao family were also gloomy at this moment, especially those whose children had lost their lives and were unable to return. They were even more heartbroken. While they had a strong hatred for the Di family, they also resented Xiao Sou. If it weren't for Xiao Sou suddenly wanting to form an alliance with the Jun family, they wouldn't have fallen into such a situation. The Di family was now in the limelight. If they had maintained their friendly relationship with the Di family, coupled with the fact that they owed them, they would not have needed to worry about such a situation happening at all. However, after the Xiao family and the Jun family formed an alliance, waves of bad news came one after another. First, they lost their position as the Holy Maiden of Light. Then they had a great battle with the Di family and the Lin family. Then they were taught a lesson by the Holy Assembly of Light. They thought that their misfortune would end here. Who would have thought that a large number of cultivators would die in the ancient battlefield? Under this situation, they seemed to be no match for the Di family at all. Now many outstanding young people had died. If they met again in the future, the situation would definitely be worse than now. After noticing everyone's gaze, Xiao Sou's expression also became complicated. Even if everyone didn't show it directly, she could guess what everyone was thinking just by looking at their expressions. Most importantly, she had no way to refute them. Even she was very clear that this decision was indeed too stupid. However, when she thought of the Qing devil, she felt that she did not regret it. As long as the Qing devil lived on as Jun Lingxuan, she believed that with the Qing devil's ability, he would be able to pull the Jun family and the Xiao family together again. She was an expert from the celestial realm. How could Di Baichen and the others compare to her? Her dark eyes were shining brightly. As long as Qing Devil was here, she felt that these frustrations in front of her were nothing. It would only take a period of time for these effects to fade away. When Qing Devil led the Jun family to a new height, the Jun family would probably be grateful for the decision he had made. Xiao Yanlong suppressed the anger in his heart. He looked at the dispirited crowd and said, "You have all worked hard on this trip. Go back and have a good rest." Yes, patriarch. Unlike the usual loud and clear voices, everyone's voice was somewhat low at this moment. These repeated blows made them unable to be as energetic as before. On the contrary, they were filled with gloom. Recalling the scene of being crushed in the ancient battlefield, they were already thinking of ways to avoid the next experiential learning. It wasn't that they weren't willing to contribute to their families, but they knew that they would only be throwing their lives away if they went. There wasn't even the slightest bit of hope, so who would be willing to go? Since there was no hope, they might as well linger on with their last breaths. Xiao Yanlong and the elders looked at the dispirited cultivators and sighed in their hearts. They could see that after this experiential learning, everyone's confidence seemed to have been completely destroyed. They were no longer as energetic as they used to be. This was what worried them the most. Chapter 5980. After everyone left, Xiao Yanlong called Xiao Sou and Xiao Sudong into the room and asked in a deep voice, "What happened during this period of time?" Xiao Sou also understood that Xiao Yanlong was not asking about their gains in the ancient battlefield, but the various changes that happened during this period of time. In front of her father, she did not hide anything and immediately told him everything. "What did you say? Jun Lingxuan was possessed?" Xiao Yanlong took a few steps back with a pale face. This was a huge blow to both the Jun family and the Xiao family. Jun Lingxuan's death meant that the marriage alliance had fallen through, but now everyone had linked the Xiao family and the Jun family together. Even if he proposed to break the alliance with the Jun family, no one would believe him. Indeed, one wrong move led to many wrong moves. It was originally a good move, but now it had become like this. "Father, don't worry, listen to me." Xiao Sou helped Xiao Yanlong to sit down. Although Jun Lingxuan's body has been possessed, the soul that possessed him is the Qing devil from the immortal region. You should have heard from Senior Shuyu that the immortal region is a very extraordinary place. The people there are far stronger than us. He has taken over Jun Lingxuan's body and can lead us to become stronger. As soon as she said this, Xiao Sudong could not help but frown. "Sister, didn't Brother Ling Sun say that he has regained control of his body?" "That's a lie," Xiao Soa said frankly. In front of others, she needed to pretend, but in front of her family, she did not need to pretend. Xiao Sudong was stunned. It turned out that his suspicion was not wrong. "Then why are you still helping him? Qing devil killed Brother Ling Sun, so he was their enemy. What was the reason for helping the enemy instead?" Xiao Yanlong did not speak, but looked at Xiao Sou with a complicated gaze. In his mind, he had already vaguely guessed his thoughts. If that was the case, then he suddenly felt that he did not know enough about his daughter. "So what do you think?" Xiao Yanlong asked casually. "I think we can pretend that we don't know. As long as the Qing devil has the ability to change the current situation of the Jun family and the Xiao family, then whether he is Jun Lingxuan or not, is it that important?" Xiao Sou's eyes were full of resentment and viciousness. Bailey Hongzhuang was really very proud. Every time she thought about it, she could not help but feel angry. Clearly, these things originally belonged to her. But they were all originally belonged to her. But now, even in her dreams, she wanted to kill Bailey Hongzhuang. "Sister, but Brother Ling's the one you like." Xiao Sudong looked at Xiao Sou in disbelief. He suddenly felt that he didn't know this big sister in front of him. How could he say such nonsensical words? Could it be that big sister could pretend that she didn't know that he was the one who was being possessed? Suddenly, Xiao Sudong felt a chill in his heart. "Is it important whether I like him or not?" Xiao Sou sneered. "The one I like now is Jun Lingxuan, who is also Qing devil." "Sister. Sudong." Xiao Yanlong stopped Xiao Sudong. When he turned to Xiao Sou, his eyes were full of appreciation. "So it's good that you can understand this." Chapter 5981. Being vicious, and even unscrupulous might not be a good thing in the eyes of others. But as the head of the family, it was not a bad thing. Achieving one's goal by any means was more of a guarantee for the interests of the family. In fact, Xiao Suo was the one who sacrificed the most in this whole thing. But the benefits it brought belonged to the whole family. In the past, because of Xiao Suo's identity as the Saintess of the Light, he had never taught her too much. Because the identity of the Saintess of the Light was already a gap that many people could not cross. After losing this title, he had been depressed because of it. His daughter had been acting like a young lady all these years. If he had known that this identity was not so stable, he would have changed Xiao Suo's character. Who would have thought that after so many things had happened, Xiao Suo had grown up on her own? This made him feel very careful. At least it was easier for her to survive with this kind of character now than before. Xiao Sudong looked at Xiao Yanlong in disbelief. He could not believe that his father actually thought that his sister's decision was very good. This was a completely deranged decision. Father, if this matter is exposed one day, how will my sister live? From the moment Qing Devil admitted his identity in front of everyone, he felt that Qing Devil might not care about all this at all. Once a soul from the immortal region grew up, his strength would be very amazing in the future, but no one knew his character. If he had evil intentions, wouldn't that be? Looking at Xiao Sudong's naive appearance, Xiao Suo shook her head and sighed. She put her hands on Xiao Sudong's shoulders and looked straight at Xiao Sudong, saying, Sudong, we are no longer the same as before. I did make a wrong decision at that time, but now there is no room for negotiation. If we don't find a way to change all this, think about how the Di family and the Lin family were before. They will not let us go at all. Looking at Xiao Suo's serious eyes, Xiao Sudong struggled hard in his heart. He felt that his sister's decision was too crazy, but he couldn't refute her words. Now, the Xiao family was indeed in a difficult situation. The Di family used to have the best relationship with them, but now, they had completely fallen out. As for the other families, they would usually be overcautious if they wanted to help them. As the Di family grew stronger and stronger, it became even more impossible for them to help. Even if his father had never mentioned this point, he understood that the friendship between the great families was built on the interests of both sides. In a situation where they were willing to risk their lives for each other, other than the families that were tied together by marriage, no other family would be willing to do so. In comparison, the relationship between the younger generation, during the experiential learning, was much simpler. Because their relationship was good enough, they were willing to help the other party. However, it was different when it came to the family. However, now that the Di family was in the limelight, they didn't even need to look for helpers. Countless families had already taken the initiative to approach them and try to get closer to them. Comparing the two, if the Xiao clan did not think of a solution, they might really be removed from the list of top aristocratic families in the future. Chapter 5982. Although many things were beyond Xiao Yanlong's expectations, after Xiao Suo's analysis, he felt that what she said was very reasonable. If everything could go according to plan, then there might be a turning point. How powerful were the cultivators in the immortal region? When he heard Shuyu talk about it, he was full of yearning. If he could have a son-in-law from the immortal region, wouldn't that be amazing? After all, Shuyu had only gone to the immortal region once. She hadn't been to the real immortal region, but her strength was already so outstanding. How powerful were the cultivators in the immortal region? Even if he possessed Jun Lingshuan's body, and didn't have the power of the immortal region, he alone could do well in the upper world. However, the only thing I'm worried about is Qing Devil's character. Xiao Sudong's face darkened. No one knew what kind of character the cultivators from the immortal region had. Wouldn't it be terrible if they didn't want to cooperate with them at all? A smile appeared on Xiao Suo's face. She said, "Father, don't worry. During this period of time, I've become very familiar with him." "Really?" Xiao Sudong was stunned for a moment. Then, joy appeared in his eyes. Xiao Soa nodded. Of course. She knew very well that with Qing Devil's identity, he wouldn't care about ordinary people at all. However, Qing Devil would still be willing to help her when she had questions. Moreover, she risked her life for Qing Devil at the last moment. She believed that Qing Devil wouldn't turn a blind eye to it. The most important thing was, she had already confirmed Qing Devil's feelings for her. Good, that's good. Xiao Sudong patted the table happily. The depression that had been caused by the death of so many young disciples dissipated a lot at this moment. Xiao Sudong had been silent. He didn't know how to persuade him at all. Most importantly, after thinking about it carefully, he also felt that this crazy plan was somewhat feasible. Since the cultivators of the Jun family have been fooled by you, don't tell them that you were possessed. Even if the Jun family asks, you must insist that the Qing Devil is Jun Lingxuan. Do you understand? Xiao Yanlong's eyes were deep and ruthless. Now that things had reached this point, this was the only way. He didn't know how Jun Hongcheng would react if he heard the news, and he didn't want such an accident to happen. So the best way was to not tell them. Perhaps this was the best outcome for Jun Hongcheng. Father, I understand. Xiao Soa nodded. Only then did Xiao Yanlong look at Xiao Sudong. Sudong, you can't tell anyone about this either. Yes, father. Xiao Yanlong heaved a sigh of relief and walked out of the house. He still had to deal with the family matters of the fallen cultivators. Although it gave him a headache, he felt much more relaxed after coming up with a new idea. The Jun family's team was the last to return of all the teams. Although they were almost the first to reach the exit, they hid nearby, after escaping to avoid the D family's pursuit. They didn't feel relieved until the D family's team left. However, they didn't see the young master after waiting for a long time, which made them feel very helpless. Chapter 5983. Without the young master, how could they return to the family? When they thought about the family head's questions, they had no way of answering. Therefore, the cultivators of the Jun family stayed near the exit for many days until the exit closed. Only then did they choose to return. Along the way, everyone prayed that the young master might have returned as soon as possible, because he was worried about danger. When they arrived at the family, they might find that the young master had already returned a few days ago. This was the most likely possibility. When Jun Hongcheng heard that the cultivators of the other families had returned from their experiential learning, but only his own team of cultivators had not returned, he could not help but feel anxious. What's going on? Why haven't Ling's son and the others returned after so many days? Jun Hongcheng looked at the family gate where no one had come, his determined and calm face full of anxiety and worry. In the beginning, he was not so worried, but as time passed, he felt that something was wrong. There must be a reason why they had not returned for so long. Family head, don't worry too much. I believe that the young master will be blessed by the heavens and will return safely, Jun Xianxiao said. Jun Hongcheng sighed. His face, which was usually full of confidence, now revealed a rare lack of confidence. Great Elder, I think we may have made the wrong decision. Now that the D family is getting stronger and stronger, he regretted it very much. If he had killed D Beichen back then, there would not be so many unexpected things happening now. If they had killed D Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang when he had returned, there would not be so many twists and turns now. Now these two people had grown up. He vaguely felt that the momentum of these two people could no longer be suppressed. The incident in the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm had already given them a huge blow. This time, with Xu Yu's guidance, he was originally full of confidence. However, he did not know when it started, but his confidence had completely dissipated. Jun Xianxiao had never seen Jun Hongcheng reveal such a tired expression. Even if they could not defeat the D family in the past, The family head had always been full of confidence. But now, he could not see the slightest bit of confidence on the patriarch's face, only despair and exhaustion. After fighting for so many years, they had finally seen the hope of victory. Who would have thought that something like this would happen? For a moment, the hope that seemed incomparably close disappeared completely. Patriarch, there might be a chance for a turnaround. Don't be too pessimistic. Jun Xianxiao couldn't bear it. The patriarch had suffered too much over the years. I hope so. Jun Hongcheng had a complicated expression on his face. He only had 2 sons, and his youngest son had already perished in the immortal cloud secret realm. Now only Ling Sun was left. If something happened to Ling Sun, then he. Patriarch, why don't I go to the Xiao clan and ask around? Maybe Sei Wu and the others have already returned. Jun Xianxiao pondered. Young Lord and Sei Wu were a couple. If Sei Wu returned, they would also know what had happened in the ancient battlefield. Jun Hongcheng hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he couldn't overcome his worry for his son. He nodded and said, Okay, you go and ask. Yes. Just as Jun Xianxiao was about to set off, the sound of footsteps suddenly came from outside the door. He knew very well that Jun Lingxuan was indeed not as good as Di Beichen. However, since Jun Lingxuan was his disciple, he had to find a way to improve Jun Lingxuan's strength. Otherwise, when the news spread out in the future, he would be disgraced. When the Jun family sent people to the Emperor Cloud City to inquire about the news, the Di family also sent people to the vicinity of the Jun family to inquire about the news. Whether the Qing devil had come out or not was a question that everyone was very concerned about at the moment. Di Beichen and the others naturally hoped that the Qing devil wouldn't come out. Once this guy appeared, no one knew what kind of changes would occur in the upper world. Chapter 5986. Inside the room, the sunlight shone through the cracks in the window sill, giving off a warm feeling. Beichen, according to the news from the spies, Jun Lingxuan hasn't returned to the Jun family yet. I think the nine-tailed Inferno Fox's judgment is correct. Di Xiaofeng's face was full of smiles. He felt that the Di family's luck was really good. Although all the major forces had gained a lot from the Divine Hall of Light, Beichen, Hong Zhuang, Yan Linger, and Yin Zhu were the ones who had gained the most. Di Beichen nodded. I'm afraid that Qing Devil didn't realize that possession was useless until the moment he left. He couldn't leave the ancient battlefield at all. Recalling Qing Devil's smug look, Di Beichen found it very interesting. He had made this guy happy for so long, but in the end, he fell into despair. It's better if a scourge like him doesn't come out. Thinking of Qing Devil, Di Xiaofeng's eyes became hazy. Now the Jun family is still hoping that Jun Lingxuan can come back as soon as possible. If they know that Jun Lingxuan can never come back, they will definitely collapse. Maybe. Di Beichen raised his eyebrows. Tit for tat. If the Jun family hadn't been so arrogant and made trouble for them all these years, they wouldn't have fallen into such a situation now. In the end, all of this was their own choice. Bailey Hongzhuang was very busy after returning to the D family. On one hand, she had to communicate with her family. Whether it was the Immortal Realm or the Crossing Immortal Realm, Lan Yunxiao and the others were confused. They didn't know where these places were. When they were in the meeting hall, they didn't have the nerve to interrupt. When they came back, they naturally had to ask Hongzhuang. Otherwise, when they talked in the future, they couldn't even figure out the situation. How could they continue to talk? Bailey Hongzhuang naturally answered all the questions patiently. If it wasn't for the forest world in the Chaos Ring, they wouldn't have known about the existence of the Immortal Domain and the Crossing Immortal Domain. However, after meeting Shu Yu and Qing Devil, the Crossing Celestial Realm and the Immortal Realm didn't seem so mysterious anymore. They seemed to be closer to each other. They didn't know when they would be able to truly come into contact with the Crossing Immortal Domain, or even the Immortal Domain. However, they had a vague premonition that it wasn't too far away. The Temple of Light had given them a lot of help, which had greatly improved their cultivation. It was precisely because of this that they had to grasp this opportunity and increase their cultivation as soon as possible, because no one knew when they would suddenly face an unexpected problem. When Lan Yunxiao and the others heard that there was the Crossing Immortal Domain, and even the Immortal Realms above the Upper Realm, they were extremely shocked. When they first learned about the Upper Realm, they found it hard to believe. After seeing the various aspects of the Upper Realm, the shock in their hearts grew even stronger. However, they didn't know much about the Upper Realm. Now that an even higher realm had appeared, it was really hard for them to accept. I suddenly feel that I don't know anything about this world. Lan Yunxiao couldn't help but sigh. When we were in the lower realm, we were really frogs in a well. Yu Linfeng also nodded. Hongzhuang, are you saying that even the head of the D family didn't know about the Immortal Domain? Chapter 5987. Family Head, and the others only know that there is a higher plane above the Upper Realm. They've heard of the Crossing Immortal Domain before, but they don't know much about it. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. In fact, even if we've heard of the Crossing Immortal Domain and the Immortal Domain, we still haven't found the way to go there. Could it be that their cultivation hasn't reached the required level, so they don't know about it? Si Tuyen's eyes darkened. Back then he only knew about the Penglai Island, but he never thought about going there. It seemed like an unreachable distance, but as long as their cultivation reached a certain level, they would be able to reach it. Bailey Hongzhuang thought about it and shook her head. It shouldn't be. The D family is already one of the top families in the Upper Realm. Even if their cultivation hasn't reached the required level, someone would have been able to reach it after so many years. However, there hasn't been any news. Currently, we only know that Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou's master, Shu Yu, have been to the Crossing Immortal Domain. However, he hasn't mentioned anything about it, so we can't make any conclusions. As she said that, Bailey Hongzhuang was also thinking about whether she should tell them about the abandoned Immortal Forest. However, if she said that, everyone would definitely want to go to the abandoned Immortal Forest to take a look. Furthermore, they had accepted Granny Hua and the others' gifts and pointers, and they had promised not to bring anyone there. If they brought everyone there rashly, they would make Granny Hua and the others unhappy. Then, they would lose more than they gained. After all, Granny Hua and the others were their only way to understand the Immortal Domain. If they offended them, not only would they feel bad, but it would also be difficult to find such a good master in the future. Rather than that, they might as well put it aside for now, and wait until they were more familiar with Granny Hua and the others, or until they had a certain level of understanding of the Immortal Domain. Hongzhuang, What are you thinking about? Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was suddenly in a daze, Mu Lingbing couldn't help but wave her hand in front of her eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang regained her senses and smiled. Nothing. I'm just thinking about where the entrance to the crossing immortal domain is. How long has it been since you came to the upper realm? Lan Yunxiao smiled faintly. You've already reached this level so quickly. I believe that you'll definitely come in the future. In the past, he thought Hongzhuang's strength was very outstanding, but the current situation made him realize that he had underestimated his daughter's strength. She was far more outstanding than they had imagined. Even in the face of the upper realm's many geniuses, perhaps, in the future realm's immortal domain, the immortal domain's immortal domain. But if not S, it's. That is. Of it. Is. T. S. T. S. S. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at everyone. Judging from their complexions and auras, she could tell that they had been doing well. They hadn't been in the D family for long, but her father and the others' strengths had increased greatly. Chapter 5988. During this period of time, Lin Yunqing and the others took great care of them. They didn't need to do anything on a daily basis, and would send cultivation resources to them every few days. These days of peacefully cultivating without having to worry about anything seemed like a long time ago. Aside from worrying about the safety of Hongzhuang and the others, they couldn't be picky about anything else. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a warm smile. In fact, she also understood that her mother and the others wouldn't suffer any grievances here. Her only worry was that they weren't familiar with this place and would have some restrictions. However, thinking about it carefully, her father and the others had been here for quite some time. Even if they weren't familiar with this place when they first arrived, they gradually became more familiar with it after such a long time. Father, I plan to make a trip to the Bailey family in the next few days. Do you all want to come with me? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. No matter what, she was still the head of the Bailey family. She felt that it wasn't appropriate for her to not personally visit for so many days. Hearing this, Lan Yunxiao and the others looked at each other and nodded in unison. That's your family. We naturally have to go and take a look. Although the Bailey family couldn't be compared to the D family, everyone was still filled with curiosity towards the Bailey family. Hongzhuang had only been in the upper realm for a short period of time, but she had already become the head of a family. As her family, how could they not go and take a look? Moreover, in the days that Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't here, the cultivators of the D family who stayed in the Bailey family were very polite to them. Just from their attitude, they knew that Hongzhuang was definitely very respected in the Bailey family. All of this made them feel incomparably proud. That's great. Bailey Hongzhuang was delighted. I'll tell Beichen and the others about this matter later. Also, the cultivators of the family have been away for so long. I'm sure they want to go back and take a look. In the past, it was a bit troublesome to go back and forth between the two families. Now that the transportation array had been built, it was more convenient to go back and forth. You arrange it. We'll listen to you. Lan Yunxiao looked at Xiao Soa dotingly. When Bailey Hongzhuang returned to her residence, she found Beichen and Di Xiaofeng together. Seeing her appear, the two revealed smiles. You're back so soon? Di Beichen's smile as warm as the sun. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. I came back to discuss something with you. Wifey, just say what you want to do, I will agree. Di Beichen chuckled. No matter what Hongzhuang wanted to do, he would try his best to satisfy her. Bailey Hongzhuang was full of smiles. She always knew that no matter what she wanted to do, Beichen would support her as always. But when she heard this, her heart still felt warm. I plan to bring father and mother to the Bailey family. At the same time, I can let some of the cultivators who are studying medicine go back. Originally, I didn't expect to stay here for so long. It's just that we went to the ancient battlefield and spent a lot of time here. I want to understand the current situation of the Bailey family. If I can raise the family's status, that would be great. She had never forgotten her responsibility. Because of her disappearance, the family's inheritance was lost, causing the Bailey family to fall from a top aristocratic family to a small family now. Since she was the reason for their decline, she had the responsibility to lead the Bailey family to greater heights. Chapter 5989. Grandpa, I know you can't see what I'm doing now, but I still hope to tell you that I've done my best to make up for my regrets. No problem. Bachin smiled faintly, just as the most important thing for him now was to establish the Dark Sacred Assembly. Hongzhuang's most important thing was to make the Bailey family stronger. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Di Xiaofeng. Big brother, ask Yunyan if she plans to go back. If she wants to go back and take a look, then let's go back together. Okay. Di Xiaofeng nodded. I'll ask later. I think she must want to go back and take a look. Coincidentally, there's nothing to do recently. There's no news from the Jun family yet, so we can take care of some things at hand. Bachin raised his eyebrows. I have to go find father later. I forgot to tell him about the blood spirit stone last time. They had already gained a lot in the ancient battlefield. Not only had their cultivation improved rapidly, but their talent had also improved. In the future, their cultivation speed would be even faster. If they didn't know about the existence of the immortal region, perhaps they wouldn't be so anxious. Now that they knew everything, they only felt that increasing their strength was the most important thing. Not only them, but their father also needed to increase his strength. If it weren't for the younger generation, their father and the others would have also gone to the ancient battlefield this time. Their improvement would probably be very shocking. Di Xiaofeng understood Bachin's thoughts. They had a lot of blood spirit stones in their hands. Using blood spirit stones to cultivate was faster than using high-grade spirit stones. If their father and the others' cultivation improved a little, the family would be safer. Although the Jun family and the Xiao family had suffered a setback this time, they weren't worried about the strength of the two families if they really clashed. However, there was one person they had to be wary of. That was Shuyu. This person was stronger than Diyujue. If Shuyu was determined to help the Jun family, once a battle broke out, she would be a big problem. Only when their father's strength increased would everything be safe. That's right. The most important thing now is to increase the strength of the family. Our cultivation has improved a lot during this time, so it's good to slow down a little and stabilize it, Di Xiaofeng said. Bachin nodded slightly. That was exactly what he was worried about. Bailey Hongzhuang handed the blood spirit stones in her hand to Bachin and said, I gave a portion to my parents earlier. You can take the rest. Hearing this, Bachin glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang. It was just a glance, and there was no need to say anything else. When Diyujue saw Bachin take out so many blood spirit stones, he was extremely shocked. He originally wanted to refuse. As a father, how could he accept his child's cultivation resources? However, after hearing Bachin's words, he still accepted the blood spirit stone, feeling comforted. He thought back to when Bachin went missing. That was the most difficult time for him. Guilt, self-blame, worry, and all kinds of emotions gathered together. He had thought more than once that as long as Bachin could come back, no matter what kind of person he was, even if he was a wastrel who lost his ambition, he would treat him well. However, Bachin's performance completely exceeded his expectations and gave him a big surprise. Now he only felt that having such a son was his pride. Everything back then was worth it. Chapter 5990. Father, Hong Zhuang and I plan to go to the Bailey family. If there's anything, send someone to inform us. Di Baichen smiled. Don't worry, there shouldn't be anything big in the near future. When Lin Yunqing knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was going back to the Bailey family, she called Di Xiaofeng over. When Di Xiaofeng arrived, he saw that not only was Lin Yunqing here, but Xiao Wanrong was also here. Mother, why did you call me over? Di Xiaofeng asked. However, Lin Yunqing didn't answer him. Instead, she looked at Xiao Wanrong, and the two smiled at him. Being stared at by the two, Di Xiaofeng's heart felt numb. He couldn't help but ask again. Grandmother, mother, if you want to say something, just say it. I'm not used to looking at me like this. Seeing this, Xiao Wanrong laughed out loud and said, Xiaofeng, you're not young anymore. Baichen is your younger brother, and he's been married for many years. What do you think about marriage? Di Xiaofeng was slightly stunned. After understanding what was going on, he calmed down. Usually grandmother and mother would pay the most attention to this point when they were together. In fact, mother wasn't very anxious about this matter. The most anxious person was grandmother. Unlike the past when grandmother mentioned this matter, he would try his best to avoid it. This time, he didn't feel repulsed by this question. Lin Yunqing knew her son the best. Just by noticing Di Xiaofeng's expression, she already understood a bit. Xiaofeng, I see that you've always been very close to that Miss Yunyan. Back then, you were unwilling to contact the girl we introduced. It was because of her, right? Di Xiaofeng's expression was a bit awkward. He was a grown man, so it was inevitable that he would feel embarrassed when this question was brought up. However, he still nodded. Lin Yunqing and Xiao Wanrong both smiled. It was rare to see Di Xiaofeng like this. You're not young anymore. It's normal to have someone you like. Lin Yunqing's smile was gentle, and there was a motherly love in her eyes. Di Xiaofeng was a little worried. Mother, you know she's from the Bailey family. He felt that his family had never had any prejudice against social status, but he was still a little worried. Looking at Di Xiaofeng's expression, Lin Yunqing had already guessed what he was worried about. She smiled faintly and said, I know what you are worried about, but I believe you also understand that we are not people who care about these things. Thinking back to the time when Bailey Yunyan had come to the clan and walked so close to Xiaofeng, they had already understood in their hearts. What's more, when you really like someone, it's impossible to hide the look in your eyes. As a mother, no matter how slow-witted she was, she could still understand. After experiencing so many things, she had already seen through these things. As for her two sons, she only wanted them to be happy from the bottom of their hearts. When Baichen and Hong Zhuang got together, how many people thought that they were not suitable for each other? The final result also proved that this was the best choice. Children and grandchildren had their own blessings. Who knew when they would bring them a huge surprise? Xiao Wanrong also nodded. Grandmother only hopes that you can get married early and hold a grandson. As long as the other party is a sensible girl, grandmother will support it. Chapter 5991. In fact, he had always planned to tell his family about this. However, he was worried that something he didn't want to see would happen, so he delayed it. He didn't think that his grandmother and mother had already figured it out, and he didn't need to worry at all. Really, the ecstatic Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but ask again. He just wanted to make sure. Looking at Di Xiaofeng's excited appearance, Xiao Wanrong and Lin Yunqing couldn't help but laugh. The smile in their eyes grew wider and wider. Of course it's true. Di Xiaofeng's smile spread from the bottom of his heart. He believed that when he told Yin Yin this news, she would be very happy. Xiaofeng, you've really grown up. Look at how happy you are. I don't usually see you like this. Xiao Wanrong teased with a smile. Her eyes were filled with unconcealable love. In addition to being happy, Lin Yunqing's expression also became more serious. Xiaofeng, you are the young master of the Lin family. I have to discuss this matter with your grandfather first. Although Xiaofeng was her son, he had an even more important identity as the young master of the Lin family. The marriage of the young master was a big event for the entire family. She had to tell her father about this matter first. After confirming it, she had to go to the Bailey family to propose marriage. This kind of etiquette couldn't be neglected. Di Xiaofeng nodded slightly and smiled. Mother, I'll have to trouble you with this matter. Lin Yunqing chuckled and patted Di Xiaofeng's hand. She nodded and said, Don't worry. Leave this matter to me. I'll help you prepare it, okay? Then I'll have to trouble grandmother and mother. Di Xiaofeng's eyes were as bright as shooting stars. He had always been serious about Yun Yan. Naturally, he didn't want to treat her unfairly. During this period of time, Yun Yan had always been with him. However, he could still faintly feel that Yun Yan was unconsciously revealing her worries. Although he had always assured Yun Yan that even if the family didn't agree, he would find a way to convince them. However, he also knew that before the dust settled, Yun Yan couldn't not be worried. Fortunately, he could finally relax now. Bailey family. When Bai Li Fan heard that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had returned to the family, he was overjoyed. He immediately led a group of clansmen to welcome them. From the disciples who had returned, he had already found out about the master's performance in the ancient battlefield. Even though he had not seen it with his own eyes, he could imagine how magnificent the scene was. In the past, the Di family's biggest rivals were the Jun family and the Xiao family. Now that the Jun family and the Xiao family were no longer their opponents, the Di family would only become stronger and stronger. Most importantly, when the family's disciples went out to gain experience, he was always unable to eat or sleep in peace. He was worried that they would get injured and die, because as a small family, they had no advantage at all in this kind of experience. To put it bluntly, they could only pick up scraps because once they encountered a large clan's team, they had no ability to face them head-on other than retreating. Otherwise, the slightest carelessness would result in the entire army being wiped out. He felt very helpless about this. But he could not change all of this, because every small clan was like this. It would take a long time for a small family to be promoted to a large family, or for a cultivator with extraordinary talent to lead the family to become powerful. Chapter 5992. Even though the family head wasn't usually in the family and rarely came back, he could tell from the vitality on the faces of the family's young cultivators that everything had changed. In the past, everyone had always hoped to change everything, but they didn't have the ability to do so. Now everyone was filled with hope. They didn't have the slightest bit of hesitation or confusion about the future, only the heart to fight. He never dared to imagine such a scene in the past. Family head. Welcome, family head. Bai Li Fan led the group of elders and disciples in saluting. Unlike when Bailey Hongzhuang first came to the Bailey family, everyone was filled with admiration from the bottom of their hearts. Bailey Hongzhuang walked to Bai Li Fan with a smile. Second family head, let me introduce you. These are my family members, my maternal grandfather, maternal grandmother. Hearing this introduction, everyone realized that these people were Bailey Hongzhuang's family members. Actually, they had already heard this news from the Bailey family's cultivators. After all, they were cultivators from the Bailey family. Even though everyone knew that they wouldn't be bullied if they followed the family head to the D family, they had been gone for so long that everyone was very concerned about their situation. Thus, they would still occasionally exchange letters. Greetings, I am the second family head Bai Li Fan. Bai Li Fan revealed a smile. Speaking of which, they weren't related to Lan Yunxiao and the others in any way, but they were the family head's relatives. which made them members of the Bailey family. Second family head. Lan Yunxiao and the others also cupped their hands with warm smiles on their faces. They couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. Bai Li Fan was older than Lan Yunxiao, but now he was addressing Hong Zhuang as family head. It really was a bit strange. However, from the expressions of the Bailey family members, they understood that even though Hong Zhuang hadn't returned for so long, her status and prestige in the Bailey family hadn't changed in the slightest. Everyone looked at her with respect and admiration. The relationship between Hong Zhuang and this family was much closer than they had imagined. Let's not talk while standing. Let's go in first, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. She had never felt unfamiliar with the Bailey family. This was her family. It had always been this way. Right. Bai Li Fan hurriedly said. Look, I'm so happy to see you all back that I actually let everyone stand here. Everyone's face was filled with kind smiles. Bailey Hongzhuang was like a moon surrounded by stars as she walked into the Bailey family's meeting hall. Send someone to prepare some drinks and snacks, Bai Li Fan ordered. In the conference hall, everyone gathered together, and the atmosphere was joyous and harmonious. Family head, we've already heard about what happened at the ancient battlefield. Congratulations, family head. The first elder raised his cup and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. He no longer had any doubts about Bailey Hongzhuang. She was their family's savior. Not only the first elder, but all the elders present had the same thought. Back then, they had thought that Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to take away their family. They had always thought that the second family head's decision was too crazy and risky. But now it seemed that their foresight was too terrible. They were far inferior to the second family head's foresight. Chapter 5993. Everyone did not understand why she was doing this. Because of this, they were full of goodwill towards Bailey Hongzhuang and only wanted to do their best to help her. They could not reject Bailey Hongzhuang's generous help, but they felt a little guilty to accept it, so they could only do their best to treat her well. Let's toast to the family head. Bai Li Fan smiled. Congratulations, family head. Everyone raised their glasses. Thank you. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her glass and drank the wine in one gulp. This time in the ancient battlefield, everyone has gained a lot. I believe that our Bailey family will get better and better. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were full of anticipation. She would definitely make the Bailey family a great family once again and return to the peak of glory. Once she said this, everyone's eyes shone with a dazzling light of hope. This time, I have brought back all the cultivators who had gone to learn about medicine. I plan to let some of them stay in the family. The medical skills taught by Dr. Wu can already treat many illnesses. There are also some talented doctors who have come back to visit their families. I will bring them back after that. When their medical skills are strong enough, they will come back. As for the rest, I will leave it to the second family head. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly explained her plan. Other than that, I have also prepared some miraculous pills and medicines. If anyone comes to seek medical treatment, they can solve it themselves. If they can't solve it, send someone to bring them to the D family. I will give them a heads up so you can rest assured. She had too many things to do now, and could not put all her energy into the Bailey family. The medical aristocratic family always had a transcendent status, no matter the time. Most importantly, no one could guarantee that they would not be seriously injured or fall ill. Therefore, no one was willing to offend a family like this. This was the Bailey family's best protection. The remuneration for treating patients and saving people would naturally not be small. With this remuneration, the Bailey family would be able to grow faster. Now both she and Dr. Wu were famous. In fact, there were many people who came to seek treatment from Dr. Wu. It was because of this that she made a plan. In the future, The D family would not help anyone except for the people brought by the Bailey family. This way, everyone would know how much the D family valued the Bailey family. Even if they were just a middleman, the other party would remember this favor after helping them. Favors may seem like nothing, but they were extremely important. No one knew when they would need it. Bai Li Fan and the others were smart. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang, they understood what she meant. They understood that this seemingly simple matter actually contained a lot of benefits. Even though they had always been looking forward to the day when their family could become powerful, everyone understood that it wasn't that simple to make a family powerful. They couldn't even find a reliable method. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's simple plan had already pointed out a clear path. Chapter 5994. Lan Yunxiao and the others had been listening silently. Before this, they hadn't heard Bailey Hongzhuang mention much about the Bailey family. Now that they heard Hongzhuang's plan, they finally understood that Hongzhuang was actually so considerate of the Bailey family. This plan seemed simple, but it was very reliable. Lan Yunxiao's gaze gradually softened. His daughter was really amazing now. He always felt that Hongzhuang was still a child, so he couldn't help but worry. Now, it seemed that Hongzhuang was much more mature than they thought. She had long been able to take charge of things on her own. In fact, she was far better than them. The doctors who came back with them all had expectant looks on their faces. During their time in the D family, they had been studying medicine with all their might. No one dared to slack off. They understood that this opportunity was too rare. If they didn't cherish it, they would truly be letting down the family head. Of course, they also knew that their current medical skills weren't enough. They would continue to study and improve. Even though they studied very hard every day, they had never felt so fulfilled. They seemed to be able to see the future of the family head becoming stronger and stronger. In fact, after Bailey Hongzhuang became the Holy Maiden, the Bailey family's status had been constantly rising. Their former competitors were now thinking of ways to mend the rift between them. Some families that they had once been unable to climb up to had even taken the initiative to express their goodwill. He felt that this situation would become even more obvious after the news of the ancient battlefield spread. And all of this was because of the family head. If it weren't for the family head, how could they have such glory? Di Baichen smiled as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. His wife was indeed worthy of being the family head of the Bailey family 1,000 years ago. She handled this kind of matter with ease. The overall plan had already been prepared, so there was no need to worry at all. The Bailey family of today was very different from before. The Holy Maiden was the family head, and she had the support of the D family. In addition to her medical skills, it would be strange if they didn't rise up. Although it would take a long time for them to reach the level of the D family, it was inevitable that they would get better and better. In order to become a top-notch clan, in addition to influence, one's cultivation must also increase. Without sufficient strength, it was impossible to reach such a level. However, since he had chosen the path of a medical family, it would be much easier for him than for others. The rest would only require time to accumulate. On the other hand, the number of people in the Bailey family had to be increased. Fortunately, his wife had already thought through all of this, and did not immediately have the intention of making the Bailey family powerful to such an extent. After Bailey Hongzhuang finished talking about the plan, the atmosphere became even livelier. Amidst the crisscrossing cups, it was a harmonious scene. After the party was over, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bai Li Fan talked in detail. Patriarch, I heard from Tianheng and the others that Jun Lingxuan seems to have been possessed? Bai Li Fan asked doubtfully. Regarding this, he had always been very surprised. However, Tianheng said that it had been possessed, and then he said that he had regained control of the body. This confused him. Logically speaking, if the body had been possessed, it should be impossible to regain control of the body. That was completely destroying the soul. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.